You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
And hello everybody! Welcome to the inaugural episode of Anime Crash Course with me, your host, Kev. And with us here we have a wonderful panel of guests. With us we have Cian O'Callaghan from the Game Corner.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Cian O'Callaghan from the Game Corner, and it is an absolute privilege to be here for your first episode.
To the right of my icon in the Zoom call, we have Katie Riley from Doing It for the Exposure.
Hi.
Again, with this Zoom format, we are underneath me is Lisa from Straight Outta Kanto.
Hi, this is Straight Outta Kanto. Thanks for having me, Anime Man.
And that's licensing. And as a special guest, we also have Keith from Horrenda. For those of you that might not have noticed, Keith also guested with us on our anime lockdown panel. Keith, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Keith. I play in a bunch of bands like Horrenda, Luna Sky, and a stupid band called Dry Socket. So I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I'm absolutely looking them up when this gets over with.
Especially Dry Socket.
I'm looking them up now.
Grant, and if the thumbnail hasn't given it away yet, we are here to talk about One Punch Man.
One Punch!
Yeah.
Power, get the power.
The absolute smash hit anime from 2015. Now, we're only going to be talking about the first season in this one episode. So, I suppose nowhere to start but the start. So we're actually going to go into a bit of history first. So, for those that might not know, including some of my panelists, One Punch Man was originally uploaded in 2009 as a webcomic by the author known simply as One. If you go back and look at this comic, it's incredibly just crudely drawn, like very wobbly line work, a very kind of child scribble style. And so yeah, that was uploaded online on, I think it was, as far as I know, it was a weekly basis. But I actually went back and read it there last night. It's shockingly easy to read and just kind of strange it is. Have any of you guys actually ever looked this up?
Yeah, I'd read the first issue in quotation marks of the webcomic, like when I first heard about the manga adaptation.
Yeah.
And I was blown away with how it just looks like children's drawings, but it's so endearing.
That's it. And it's just strange how when at first glance you see these wobbly line works, but he had a real knack for just page layout and page layout and kind of action in it. So it's as crude as it's shockingly easy to follow. I ended up actually reading 20 chapters of it last night just because I could just do it in an instant. So between the kind of the comedy of it really obviously got it to shoot just between the kind of the comedy of it really obviously got it to shoot up in popularity, leading to Yusuke Murata, a very, very talented manga author, or manga artist, should I say, approaching One and asking him if he wants to redraw this webcomic into a more traditional shonen manga series for Weekly Young Jump in 2012. So actually, I suppose before we get into it, have any of you actually looked into the more traditional manga of this?
We were talking about this off the air earlier. I've read One's other one, Mob Psycho 100, and I'm not sure if it's as crude, but yeah, I was kind of very struck immediately by how simple the art style is. But like you said, you could read 20 chapters of it in his kind of in his series. Like,
Yeah. Man, like, and this is definitely the one thing that just translates no matter from the webcomic to the manga to even the anime.
Hmm.
It's all one's comedy. Like they don't change it and they don't cut it. It's so on point. But we'll get more into that then when we're kind of talking about the actual show. So yeah, Yusuke Murata, with literally just translating one's writing into a more conventional manga style, starts printing this in Weekly Young Jump, and that obviously going from a fairly kind of popular cult webcomic to a massively successful manga series, obviously ticks over to an anime getting announced. And in 2015, Studio Madhouse gets the license for the One Punch Man anime for a 13-episode run, directed by Shingo Natsumi of Studio Madhouse. Now, for those of you that might not know, Shingo Natsumi is a fairly kind of well-known veteran in the anime industry, having been a key director and animator for series like Gurren Lagann, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Space Dandy, and the Tatami Galaxy. So like he's a real veteran and really solid animation director. So he heads the show up, and this thing explodes. Truly, just a monstrous amount of popularity behind this show. And I suppose this brings us up to now, which is why we're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Geez, I suppose where to start with this. Lisa, you've been surprisingly quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, just the kind of main comment so far has been like, oh, such a simple style, and it is so simple, but tricky to draw. And Yusuke, what's his name, Murata, was like, do you actually know how hard it is to draw this, considering the fact that he's basically just an egg with a body?
And that's depending on which like look of Saitama you actually try to draw, considering he has about, depending on his mood, he has about 5 different looks. One which is just the egg and the semicircle eyes.
But that's the hard one.
Or like the sharp angled like serious face.
The SpongeBob effect, where it's like hyper detailed when it zooms in.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I suppose we'll kind of jump in. We'll kind of go, Pete. We'll break the anime apart. We'll absolutely dissect this thing now. So I think the first thing that strikes you when you watch it is the sheer caliber of animation in this show. So obviously when you're watching it, if you've read, strikes you when you watch it is the sheer caliber of animation in this show. So obviously when you're watching it, if you've read the Young Jump manga, this is more definitely translating that than say the webcomic. But even then, there's actually splashes of the webcomic in some of the styles. They kind of actually make a solid balance of the two styles.
Well, I mean, the two kind of extremes is worth bringing up, because like there is some elements of parody to this, and like just by changing the sort of super detailed One Punch Man, like with the shadows in his eyes and all that kind of stuff, to the sort of scratchy Simpsons Series 1 looking version, can suddenly just make a joke land without anything in like the dialogue or anything like that. Like I'd argue that quick switch is like one of its most immediately grabbing features. Like,
100%.
It adds to why it's funny is because it's just Saitama's deadpan to like some of the most ostentatious situations, and the reversion back to the kind of almost crayon-like line drawing. It completely agree with Cian. Like it just completely heightens the deadpan.
And it's also like it's hard to underplay just the significance of when this came out as well. Like this 2015 would have been really the height of like the Marvel boom as well. Like I don't know which I couldn't tell you which MCU movie came out 5 years ago now. But like this would have been
Age of Ultron was 2015, I think.
Okay, height might have been actually a bit overemphasized. But like, you know, we're in a real kind of superhero boom in the film industry, and then along comes this really polished superhero, like, cause it's a subversion of kind of the superhero genre as a whole.
I originally, when you recommended it to me a year or two ago in the shop, and I've watched 100 million billion animes since and come back to it. It's also kind of a parody of anime tropes because everyone has all the biggest feelings all the time, and everyone has a complicated backstory, even in just the simple kind of high school loved ones.
Oh,
And
God, yeah.
suddenly it switches to him super not caring. It feels like a parody of that aspect too.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like it's the scene where like he's sitting in his house and Genos is just going on and on and on and on, spieling about like this. He's a cyborg man and a robot man killed his family and he lives with this scientist, and eventually Saitama just gets sick, like 10 words or less. Come on.
Oh, I relate so hard to that though. Like that was one of the things that so when I first started watching, like I'd never watched One Punch Man before. I was recommended it. I was like, this is new. And I'm very selective about anime. Like I'm not hugely into anime, so I'm very selective about what I do watch because a lot of the time I just find that some anime, I'm going to sound like such a snob for saying this, but a lot of anime suffers from manga envy.
Yeah,
let me explain. Yeah. So when you're reading a manga, you know, you're reading panels and there's side bubbles and there's thoughts and there's all sorts of stuff going into it. And with the anime, you know, how do they convey that? They basically have the characters stand there and talk at you. So instead of saying, you know, showing you that he's feeling bored with being a superhero, he stands there and he says, I'm bored with being a superhero. So for me, this was like One Punch Man was one of those things where the saving grace for me was the humor and, you know, the slapstick and the deadpan and all of this, because every so often I start to fall out of it. I'd be like, oh, okay, they're talking about it again. Out of it. I'd be like, oh, okay, they're talking about it again and again. And so I felt like Saitama when Genos is describing his backstory. I was like, come on, get on with it.
And the whole show is really gleeful with like the villain's monologues and then him just going, yeah, come on, all right.
Yeah.
Hit you once,
okay.
And like even for like if every character is like defeated in essentially one punch, and you know, and they're even in that they're all given hugely detailed backstories, even if they never show up again. It's like
especially if they never show up again.
It's almost like one just writes this entire thesis on one character and then just crunches in a ball and throws it in the trash.
Well, that's exactly it, because I noticed across that there was this big subplot of like first the underworld people wanted to take over, and then the sea people wanted to take over, and then the lizard people wanted to take over, and they're all obviously having this like the sky people, and they're obviously having this big internal feud, which doesn't matter, but it is there if you're paying attention, and that's bizarre to me.
But I mean, even, you know, some of the monsters are so huge and so well thought out, and the story arcs over, you know, 2 or 3 episodes, and he's killing everybody and nobody can beat him, and then Saitama shows up and hits him once.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say,
Punch Man.
God, I will say, as funny and like as satirical as the show can be, the Deep Sea King like arc, those 2 episodes. Like having seen this before, I still well up a little bit.
Oh, because of the guy on the bike, the Moomin Rider.
Absolutely.
Oh, Moomin Rider.
The real hero.
The way that like even in a show where there is a guy that can just end anything in one punch, the fact that I could still feel stakes, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it's like he's like the near the end of the series. I know we're probably going to go in narrative order, but near the end of the series, you meet the S ranks. And they're all such obnoxious celebrity types that in a weird way, it's really refreshing to see someone who's just trying his darndest and really believes in it. I think if you didn't have that ingredient, the show would almost be too cynical, you know?
You can do it, Moomin Rider.
Yeah.
There's so much heart in this show, and it doesn't take itself seriously. And even the S-rank superheroes, they're all just parodies of superheroes or other anime kind of villains and heroes, and kind of the whole thing is a parody kind of itself. And it has so much heart, and Saitama has so much kind of humanity to him. Even just the way he's got like that little elephant watering can, or the way he's got like the pink piggy bank, just the tiny little kind of human details add so much more to his personality and his humanity than if he stood there doing a big heartfelt monologue. Like he doesn't really stare doing a big heartfelt monologue. Like he doesn't really say much, and when he does, it's just to kind of take the piss or like belittle some big situation. But then you see these little touches around his house, or like with his cactus, or him trying to kill a mosquito. Little things like that add the heart to it that I think if they didn't have, it'd be just this guy punching things, and it'd be, you know, who cares?
And the ironic thing is, upon the second rewatch, I did not realize he was responsible for the foundation of superhero society. Like the guy who
I didn't clock that either.
Yeah.
The little picture of the head of the Hero Association has the same tune as the kid he saved from the crab.
No way.
What?
Yeah, and they specify that it was set up 3 years ago after this random guy saved his kid. Like,
there's so many little details like that you can only really kind of gleam knowing what kind of happens later. So there's so much to make every frame worth something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there's even details, like so many little things. I had seen this intro like 13, 14 times. It wasn't until very recently I noticed in the last frame of the intro, he's doing an epic superhero pose carrying his shopping. I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
Mentioning the intro, first off, it has my favorite sight gag in the show, and I cannot explain why, but it's him punching the star.
Yes.
And again, little detail. For some reason, again, only makes it funnier for me. The star is holding a knife. It's just the dumbest thing, but I love that.
That sums up the entire show. It's just the dumbest thing, but I love it.
Yeah.
So I suppose actually we'll touch on the intro while we're here, because it's become so iconic with the show. I was talking to Lisa there the other day. You mentioned, and I actually ended up watching as well, one of the extras on the DVD is talking to the band Jam Project.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about Jam Project then, Lisa?
Oh, so Jam Project are like this 5-piece Japanese band. Jam stands for Japanese Animation Makers, and they're a group of people that got together about 20 years ago who were professional singers, and they were like, it really sucks that all the anime theme tunes out there are just random pop songs completely unrelated to the show just because that singer happens to be in the charts at the time or popular. And they're like, bring back the ye olde, like really awesome epic anime theme tunes of old, you know, like Gigantor and stuff like that. And they were like, let's just get a band together and write theme tunes for anime. So that's what they've been doing for like 20 years. And they're a band that just writes theme tunes for animes and getting those theme tunes. And it's just really cool and interesting. And they're trying to like preserve the art of anime theme tunes, because they're like, look, this is a cultural entity in and of itself, like the epic anime theme tune, because it's not just like with some anime, you can't just put a random song on it, you know?
Unless it's Full Metal Alchemist.
Which actually, I just sidebar, my favorite example of a random song being thrown in front of an anime. I think it's an old 90s anime edition of Romeo and Juliet. Has got a Japanese, a real dodgy Japanese cover of My Heart Will Go On as the intro. It's so funny. Definitely check that out if you find it.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Prim dances to this song. I've been trying to get a video all week, but my phone is absolute cack at the moment.
Grand. Well, actually,
not the One Punch, not at the moment.
Grand. Well, actually,
not the One Punch, not the My Heart Will Go On. I want to find that.
Do. Keith, you've been suspiciously quiet. Have you got anything to add?
About the intro.
Just anything, just kind of any thoughts you might have on the series.
Well, I think it's like amazingly appropriate that it was animated by Madhouse, considering like they would be like one of the biggest and best at doing like all these huge shonen animes and even like Satoshi Kon like art house films. So they did it for a show that is so, you know, it's so self-referential in like anime and anime history. The fact that they got be
animated by one of the biggest studios in the industry.
The one, yeah, like the one, like they have everything from like Hunter x Hunter to like Death Note to like Summer Wars. It's perfect.
Oh, is this the same company as it?
Trigon, I forgot
And
about that.
Beck.
I never watched Beck. I keep meaning to. That's a blind spot of mine.
That's great fun.
Yeah, like like Madhouse are one of the top studios in the industry. Absolutely, and like I go so far as to say that this is their best looking show.
Oh, well, I mean, it's hard to top this, certainly.
Exactly. Like
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
like I'm trying. I think the only thing. Sorry, I was just trying to think of I think any movies they might have done that would look a little bit better, but that's like a movie.
Summer
Hmm.
Wars, stuff
Uh,
like
So
that.
yes,
but that's,
Summer Wars.
Yeah.
that's 2
Madhouse
hours
didn't have
opposed
a
to
budget.
7.
I'm thinking out loud. Keith might know the answer to this. Did Madhouse do the Cowboy Bebop movie, or was that Sunrise?
I'm pretty sure it was Madhouse.
Yeah,
As far
Sorry,
as I know it was, yeah.
that's just me. Okay, I'm postulating now. But okay, so I think we're close to a wrap up. Well, we've been absolutely shining this show out of its arse. Is there anything anyone has to say against it?
I don't like the outro theme. And the end
Aw.
credits, like it's a still image, and it's just a sad song, and I just ended up kind of skipping it.
Yeah,
near the end.
I will say I think I see what they were going for with it. Kind of, have the big boisterous action intro, and then have a kind of real solemn, real solemn kind of melancholic outro.
Which is
I kinda,
also
like-
anime cliche.
Yeah, I can kind of see because there is a melancholy to Saitama.
There
Absolutely.
definitely is.
As well as that, though, it'll cut from sorry to cut across you there, but it'll cut
you're-
from a big action thing, like an explosion or a cliffhanger into it, which is
Yeah.
kind of always gets a laugh out of me in a way.
I will say they keep this isn't a problem to just One Punch Man. A lot of anime do this. They'll always put scenes after the outro
Ah,
that won't be fully unimportant either.
Yeah, they
So,
usually
like-
lead into the next episode.
Yeah, so you'll almost be missing something.
Yeah.
So that so I'd actually skip as opposed to skipping to the next episode. I'd usually have to fast forward through the
Yeah,
outro
that's what I do.
to
yeah.
watch the sim at the end.
but the bonus of that is you get the dead villain of the episode doing a funny teaser thing, which are actually kind of worth sticking
Yeah,
around
that's
for.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
It's just gonna say it's funny though because with regards to the dead villain of that episode, one of the kind of unusual kind of narratives of One Punch Man is the fact that it feels like every villain that's in there, it feels like you're in the middle of someone else's story, and that Saitama is just kind of meandering through his life into the middle, because in the first episode I think it is, where there's the giant super strong guy and his brother the scientist, and it's oh, you made me kill my Oni-chan and stuff like that, and it's just it feels like every villain there has been on such a long journey, and then Saitama just meanders into it, and it's any one of those kind of side stories and their deaths from Saitama's punch could probably be an anime in and of itself. A big
I think,
full
to be fair, I think
anime, and it's
I think a lot of those throwaway ones are definitely parodies of kind of classical villains. Like the first one's just a purple version of Piccolo from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I thought that. I was like, wait, is this Dragon Ball Z? I was like, wait, is this Dragon Ball Z we're in now?
And
that-
you could
sorry,
definitely.
sorry.
I was just gonna say you could definitely compare the giant that the scientist created to the Titans in Attack on Titan.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I was just going to say, well, firstly, I was going to ask if this was before or after My Hero Academia, but certainly...
This was before. Well, I think even the manga would have been before, the Hero Academia manga. So this was just before Hero Academia, and I think, again, this definitely gave Hero Acad the step up to become the juggernaut it is.
Definitely, but every villain, and sometimes there's 2 in every episode, but every villain
Sometimes there's
feels
3.
Sometimes there's 3. Each one of them feels like they could be a worthy antagonist in the end of this big 20-episode long thing, which I think Lisa kind of said already. And it's even lovely. I think Katie can hit upon it that every villain has its own art style. Like the Godzilla looks like a Dragon Ball Z looks like Dragon Ball Z. The other guy looks like Attack on Titan, and that must be so much extra work on top of the already impressive animation.
Oh god, like
Yeah.
the character design, and that's actually, this goes back to one. Like, he has such a knack for creating these just diverse and captivating character designs. Like the one I always love, again, it's so dumb, is the little pink alien dude that in the alien ship that
With the pink dots on him, and he looks like Mr. Blobby.
that just wants to go home.
Yeah.
I love him. He's so funny. It's just,
I feel sorry for all those aliens. They all get like smushed at the end, and it's just like they just wanted to go home. They weren't even really involved. They just got dragged into it. They're innocent bystanders.
that's another thing, and the show does a great job at like kind of leaving mystery as well, like kind of leave you wanting to know more. Like Metal Knight's kind of deal. Why has nobody trust him? Who is the number one hero? What's Am I Mask's deal? Why is he such a wang?
He was. I felt like he should have been. It felt like they were gearing him up for more of a climax than what we got. Like I just felt like he's not even an S-class superhero, but it feels like he has more authority than them. And
I think he's kind of showing off just the side of how involved the popularity vote is.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge ingredient we haven't talked about, because one of the big things, the further you get into this, is that superheroes rescue people, and either superheroes treat each other terribly or the public treats them terribly. And I think that's an aspect, what with the Marvel Civil War, Batman, Superman, all that kind of stuff, that's always brought up and never actually followed through logically.
The importance of social status in this universe can't be understated. Like,
yeah, it's
like, and that's even as far, because again, Saitama's the most powerful thing. Most people hate him, and he kind of plays into that now.
Yeah,
but
he kind of does that as a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah. Oh no, like again, I love the Sea King saga so much. I keep bringing it up because it's my go-to. But like when that little snot-nosed brat in the crowd is talking about how all those other heroes are useless, and how he couldn't have been that strong because this dude took him out with one punch. Like Saitama reeling around, crushing his own popularity just to save face of everyone else that the Sea King pummeled to death.
He's the real hero.
Literally, like, oh god, and like it also shows that he's not dumb. He might come off as it. He's a clever guy, but anyway.
I just kind of wanted to slap that guy in the audience.
Oh, yeah.
I've actually never been so triggered in my life. I'm like, how dare you?
He has a face he has a face worthy of slapping.
It's done deliberately.
Okay. Does anyone else? I was actually just going to say, does anyone else have anything else they want to add?
Oh,
Well,
I was just going to say that snot-nosed brat, as you call them, that's like a real like cliche anime face. That kind of face appears so often, and I just
always
love
want
it.
to hit him.
Yeah, it's the absolute best.
So we won't. So I don't think we should go into it too much. But just to note, there was in fact a second season.
Right.
Oh my yeah.
Mired.
Now I'm torn.
Mired in some mild controversy. So as I said, the original was 2015, and obviously blew up, smash success. So the wait for a sequel was hotly anticipated. And then people were kind of left completely in the dark. Until I think it was roughly 2017, they announced that yes, a One Punch Man Season 2 is going into production. However, it was changing studios.
Dun dun dun.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, Madhouse is a caliber all their own. So a lot of people took this bad. Now it was being moved over to Studio JC staff, who are kind of an industry veteran. They've been around for a long time. They have some hits in them, but like they're not nearly as top tier as Madhouse. And it was also moving director from Shingo Natsume to Chikara Sakurai. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Natsumi was involved in a lot of popular projects and heading up a lot of really critically acclaimed anime. Sakurai didn't nearly have a lot of pedigree behind him. The most, like, when I was looking through, the most notable things I could find from was having a couple of animation director credits on a couple of Naruto Shippuden movies. So not a whole lot in terms of pedigree there. So this series released in 2019 to middling critical response. I think the critical response was that the writing was still really, really good and the characters still felt like they'd ever. And yes, and just to be clear, this did follow on from where season 1 left off. However, there was a noticeable drop in animation quality,
Oh.
which I found actually really surprising how much of a drop there was, considering JC staff and their animators are actually pretty good. They'd be known for works like Food Wars and Is It Wrong to Pick Girls in a Dungeon, which are fairly kind of, again,
They're really good though.
yeah, popular series that, have good animation. Again, not nearly as high quality as Mad Haste and One Punch Man, but still decent. But yeah, no, there's somebody dropped the ball on this one. And that's kind of where we're sitting now. I think they've announced a season 3, but there's been no firm details on when that's coming. So I would definitely say if you finished season 1 and you want to end the manga published in Shonen Jump, I think it's definitely the way to go, because it much more closely resembles the style of the anime. In more so, the anime was based on that manga, should I say? Grant. So I suppose. Does anybody have any final thoughts on everything?
Yeah, I found a cosmic coincidence in between when we were recording the Game Corner earlier and now. Do you remember we were talking about Final Fantasy VII and I asked you who voiced Red 13 and we couldn't figure it out?
Oh, yeah?
It's Max Middleton, who is the English voice of Saitama.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, totally. I mean, I know we're filthy casual for watching it in English.
Actually, I entirely blanked on this. I meant to ask this at the top of the show. How did everyone watch this? Did people watch it in English or Japanese?
Japanese subs, not dubs.
So I did the filthy on Netflix.
Virtual high five.
And Keith?
I've actually watched it in both. Like, when it first came out, I watched the subs, like fan subs of it, and then I watched the dub. The dub really works with the show because it's like poking at all those tropes and cliches, and it really helps with the monologues and stuff.
Definitely, I think this is the show. This is a show where I think either option is actually really, really good. If I had to prefer, I think I'd go with the sub, but the dub is a very solid way of watching this.
And is there any reason you picked this one for your premiere episode?
Ah, gee, it's what it is. It's one of the most popular anime of all time. I knew it'd be an easy one to convince you all to watch, and I knew it was going to be an easy one to talk about. Okay, so I think that's going to do us here. I knew it was going to be an easy one to talk about. Okay, so I think that's going to do us here, guys. It's been great having you on. This has been a blast. So we're going to start plugging stuff now. Cian, where can people see more of your beautiful mug?
Okay, you can find the Game Corner on Facebook or through the Nerd to Know Media Facebook page. We are also on Instagram at Game Corner Nerd to Know. That's NTK. And the first 4 episodes are up there now, and Kev will be joining us there soon, so come check it out.
Awesome. So, Katie.
Yeah, you can currently find me at Doing It for the Exposure, which is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter if you want to hear a podcast about artists and, their current struggles. Mannequin_blue.
Awesome. Lisa, where can people find out more about you?
So Straight Outta Canto is an Irish 18+ nerd magazine show. It's all about horror and gaming, retro gaming and J-horror Japanese culture. If you want to find that, there is a Straight Outta Kanto Facebook page. We're on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, the whole shebang under the Nerd to Know Media banner. And I am on Instagram under Venus_the_Valo.
Awesome.
Don't forget the duh.
Obviously, the duh. Awesome. And Keith, have you got anything to plug here?
Yeah, you can go onto my Instagram. It's Dry Keith. Keith is spelled with 2 E's and a T. And there will have links to like the bands I'm in, like Horrenda and Luna Sky. And that's it. And I was on your anime lockdown stream a couple weeks ago.
Definitely. If you like this, definitely check out the Anime Lockdown stream. We talk about Doki Doki Literature Club. We recorded at 1 a.m. It was a wild time. So I've been Kev Coffee. You can follow me on Twitter at KevTalika94. This has been Anime Crash Course, and we will see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.
Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.